Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and every one of my jabronis. It's Mitch here to break down, react, and recap the NFL trade deadline. That's right. Some massive moves, some big blockbuster deals across the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys are back. They're all in. After being embarrassed by the Arizona Cardinals, Jerry Jones made a call, not just one, but two. And he made some deals for some defenders. Quinnen Williams is a Dallas Cowboy. I'll talk about why I love that move for Jerry's Cowboys, as well as Logan Wilson, the linebacker of Cincinnati. On top of that, the Jets' fire sale was the story of the day. Sauce Mr. Gardner is now on Indianapolis. The Colts have got a premier shutdown corner on the outside. How will that affect their AFC standing as a contender in 2025 and beyond? Because the Colts are really all in with 2 first-round picks being sent to the Jets. We're going to talk about the Jets, their rebuild. We're going to talk about the Jets' fire sale, Quinnen Williams. We're going to talk about Sauce Gardner. We're going to talk about the Eagles, their moves that they made. We're going to talk about everything, guys. Like, this channel, you know what I do. It's like free agency. I go trade to trade, signing to signing, as we do in free agency, we do here. Nobody breaks it down like your boy Mitch. We're going to get into the gritty, the little details, the fine print. We're going to talk about how the player fits. We're going to talk about why the move was made. We're going to talk about how this affects the team. And as always, I'm going to give you my my honesty in terms of my opinion on these moves. So, if that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, get in the comments. And if you do have a question and you absolutely need it to be answered, then make sure you do super chat. If you don't super chat, you have a chance of your question being answered, but not 100%. So if you do super chat 100%, I will answer your question. Okay. Now, where shall we begin? That is a question. And of course, if you want to talk about the teams that didn't make trades, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, we can talk about those teams as well, and I'm sure I'll rip them apart as we go along here. Okay? But I think we should begin with the biggest trade of the day, the biggest news of the day. And if you guys didn't follow me and didn't know, I was live for 2 hours on Bleacher Report today talking about these trades. So if you want to go back and check out Bleacher Report, there was like a 10-hour stream. I was on there for 2 hours reacting to these moves live. But the big news of the day is that the Indianapolis Colts traded a first-round pick in 2026 and in 2027 to the New York Jets for star corner Sauce Gardner, okay? Gardner had just signed a 4-year, $120.4 million extension with New York. The Jets also acquired Adonai Mitchell of the Colts, their former second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, maybe third. I'm pretty sure he was a second-round pick. He was looked at as a first-round prospect coming out of Texas a couple years back, and he has not looked great in Indianapolis, but he is extremely talented. I think at a fundamental source, if you were to ask me, okay, which side won this trade? I would say the Jets won this trade. They get 2 first-round picks, 1 in each season, and they get a receiver that I like. I think that they won this trade. That being said, I feel like the Colts were aggressive, and I have been very critical of the Colts for being conservative and for not being aggressive and for laying back and relaxing a little bit too much. And I have to give Chris Ballard and or maybe the new ownership some credit for being aggressive for once, for actually pushing the right buttons here. And the thing I'll say about the Colts is they can make this kind of move. Why can they make this kind of move at a fundamental level? Because they're not paying their quarterback very much money, at least right now. Daniel Jones is not making a lot of money, right? And Anthony Richardson is not making a lot of money. So Richardson will probably be gone like this offseason somewhere as a project. But the reason they're able to make an aggressive multi-draft pick move is because they can pay their quarterback so little and still have free agency cash to spend on some of their needs the next couple of years. And then down the line, they can replenish the roster through the draft. And also, if you're Ballard, you have to have confidence in the way that you've drafted. And you have to have confidence in this coaching staff. I mean, right now, other than maybe San Francisco, I don't think there's been a coaching staff that's been better this season than Indianapolis. Shane Steichen has been incredible on offense. He's proven to be the right hire in Indy. I think he's been proven in multiple ways. The Eagles have kind of failed to replace him consistently. And then at the same time, defensively, you have Lou Anarumo, who's a proven winner and a great playoff performer when it comes to game plans. We saw that in Cincinnati, and I think what he's done with this defense, I think I've always been critical of the Colts being too conservative defensively and too conservative in their front office, and he brings more flavor. I just feel like this Colts team has a lot more upside because their coaching brings flavor and creativity and flash, and you need that to beat teams with the elite quarterbacks. You need great coaching and great game planning. So when we break down Sauce Gardner, we have so many different directions to go here. We'll start off with the player himself. So I was 100% shocked when I saw this move. I did not expect in my wildest dreams that Sauce Gardner was going to be traded. Like, when I saw it, I was like, what? I didn't even have him on my radar. Quinnen Williams, I had him in the back pocket. You know, I kind of thought maybe that was a possibility. I've seen some rumors there about Quinnen Williams, but never Sauce. He just signed a contract. When you're thinking about it from the Jets' perspective, Aaron Glenn is a former corner who played a ton of man coverage in Detroit. The part of the reason you would think he kind of was attracted to the Jets was maybe because he had an elite shutdown corner on the outside in Sauce Gardner, who he believed could be a centerpiece of his man coverage heavy defense. And it hasn't really been the best fit for Sauce Gardner with this system, right? With Robert Saleh, he occasionally played a little bit of cover one and a little bit of press man coverage, but that was more of a change up, right? Aaron Glenn plays a lot of man coverage to a very high degree. And what the Jets did under Saleh was a lot more quarters coverage, match coverage principles, and cover three. So Sauce is a little bit better at hiding some of his deficiencies in that defense, which I do think, you know, that's going to be more what the Colts are centered in as opposed to man coverage. I think they like to play a lot of different styles of coverage, and Sauce is going to be intriguing to see how exactly he's used, because Lou Anarumo is a mad scientist. That's literally his nickname. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he uses Sauce. Like, they could do some funky stuff in that defense where on one side you've got Sauce locked up one-on-one, and then over here you're playing like cover two, and like they could do some different like hybrid coverages and stuff like that. But so it's going to be fun to watch how he's utilized. At the same time, Charvarius Ward, who has been injured, has been great for the Colts this year. He is older, but he's been great when on the field this year. He's only played 231 snaps, according to Pro Football Focus, but he is their number 2 graded corner this year. And if you look into his stats, I don't think that grading, I know people have problems with PFF, that grading has been fairly accurate for my assessment, right? Like, he's currently on IR, but I do believe his IR is due to the head trauma or the concussions. And I don't think that's like a full season injury. Maybe I'm totally off base there. So for now, I mean, you have Sauce and whoever else. Kenny Moore, of course, is one of the best nickel corners in football, and he's good in the pass and the run game, and he can blitz and he can tackle, and he's great with his instincts. And he is essentially Lou Anarumo's Mike Hilton, maybe even a better player than that. And I think Jalen Jones is a solid depth piece at corner for them, but Mekhi Blackmon has kind of struggled in his starting snaps. And they don't have a great pass rush. So one way that, like, at least edge pass rush, I don't think they're, like, overwhelming in their edge pass rush, but they have good players. Like, it's not, but they don't have, like, a star. They don't have a Max Crosby or Micah Parsons. But, like, Latu's played well this year. Kwity Paye is okay. Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, they're okay. It's nothing special, but their interior D-line is strong, but they're also aging. So this is an interesting move from the standpoint of, now when they face the Bills, they face the Chiefs. They've got two corners on the outside who you can lock up in, just one-on-one coverage. Whether that be on the outside playing more aggressively in your quarters or playing man-to-man or mixing up your coverages. Charvarius Ward and Sauce have thrived in cover 3 systems. They've thrived in the Seattle scheme systems. So that's what I think, the Colts are going to be more based in. But I feel like with those two guys on the outside, they're great at the line of scrimmage. They're great in press coverage. They've got enough speed to not get beat down the field. And where they're kind of weak is their lateral quickness. So they both have similar skill sets. Sauce is in his prime. He's being paid a lot of money. He has struggled this year. I thought last year he was better than people gave him credit for. I thought last year his numbers weren't as great as 2022, 2023. But I did still feel like he was really good, and we'll get into the reasons why statistically speaking. But so you look at Sauce, he's 22nd graded this year. According to PFF, he actually has a top 5 run defense grade this season, and he exclusively plays on the perimeter of the defense, 368 snaps out wide on the perimeter. Last season, he was graded as the 31st best corner in football, according to Pro Football Focus. So the last 2 years in the grading, he hasn't been quite as good. He only had 1 interception last year. He has 6 passes defensed, 20 tackles, no interceptions this season. But if I were to pull up like his stats, his advanced stats, one of the stats that I think is interesting about Sauce from last year is the fact that he was the least targeted corner in the NFL on a per play basis. So last year, people really didn't even challenge him all that much. I think that's an interesting stat to look at, right? So if I were to look at his snaps per reception allowed, so this isn't even snap per target. This is actually snap per reception. Sauce was only allowing a reception every 17.7 snaps, meaning he was the corner that allowed the least amount of catches on a per play basis, essentially. So that's lockdown coverage. Last year, he also allowed a 53 reception percentage, which is really good, right? That is top 10 in the NFL. So he was top 10 in the NFL in completion percentage allowed, and he was also first in snaps per reception allowed, and his passer rating in 2024 was under 80, despite only having 1 interception. So it was 79.3. That's really good numbers for a cornerback. If we were to look at 2023, 2022, that was his peak of his career so far, his rookie season and his second season, where you can make an argument he was the best corner in the NFL in those years. First team All-Pro in back-to-back years. He had 20 passes defense as a rookie and 11 in 2023 and a forced fumble in 2023. So he was a first team All-Pro in his first 2 years. I think this is a better fit. It's closer aligned with what he did under Robert Saleh, what he did under Ulbrich with the Jets the last few years rather than this year with Aaron Glenn. So it's a much better fit for Sauce Gardner, and it really helps the Colts against premier quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Drake May in the AFC. These are teams that you're going to have to face, teams you're going to have to beat in the AFC. Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. You're going to have to play those guys potentially in the playoffs, okay, for the next couple of years. Right? This isn't just this year, but next year as well and beyond that. The Colts have gone all in for the next couple of years saying, we've got a chance here. When you look at the Colts roster, their offense is one of the best, if not the best in the league. They have an elite offensive line. They have a really good receiving core where they had a surplus of talent. Mitchell was another player they could just throw into the deal because they have 3 receivers that are all good. Michael Pittman's their number 1. Alec Pierce is their downfield threat. Josh Downs is their slot. Ty Warren at tight end is a dog. He's on a rookie contract. Jonathan Taylor right now is the best running back in football. Daniel Jones is a good, effective quarterback in their system, and he's cheap. Their defensive front, Buckner and Stewart are only getting older. They maybe have some weaknesses at linebacker, but they did try to fulfill that with Jermaine Pratt. He hasn't looked great for Indy, but Franklin's a dog. I love their safeties, Nick Cross and Cam Bynum. This is a huge missing piece. This defense goes from being kind of middling, in my opinion, and I thought they played really well against the Steelers, probably into closer to that top 10 category now, with Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward whenever he gets healthy. I think now you can essentially argue that the Colts have a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense in the NFL. And any team that has that, even with a little bit of a shaky reputation at quarterback with Daniel Jones, can go a long way. And I think they're going to be a problem for Buffalo. I think they're going to be a problem for the Chiefs, right? Like, they can match up with the Chiefs with these corners now. Think about it. Like, they can match up on the outside. They've got the defensive coordinator to do it against the Chiefs. We've seen Anarumo do it, right? They can run the ball on the Bills, and that's the formula to beating the Bills, is outpossessing them and beating them at their own game, right? Against New England, maybe they get aggressive at the line of scrimmage. They can certainly slow down the run game of the Patriots, and they can maybe overwhelm those receivers who aren't exactly great. So against all the AFC competition with Sauce Gardner added, they look like a real big threat this season. Now, it's going to come down to Daniel Jones, but it's looking pretty good. We have a super chat. I can't help but be disappointed in no Lions moves. Feel like there were definitely moves to be made. I'm just going to call you sell, bro. The Lions were not sellers, but they were not buyers. Yeah, it is disappointing, man. I want to continue to talk about this, but really disappointing with the, number of teams. I mean, the Lions being one of them, the 49ers, the Patriots, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Broncos. I mean, none of these teams made any moves. So I definitely feel like I've been pressing for the Lions to kind of make a bold move, go all in. They're healthy right now. They've got the prime roster in the prime of their career. And I feel like in the playoffs, they might be one defensive end short, one corner short of really being the best team in the NFC. And that's going to hurt when they get there. And it's going to show up in a big game. You know, as me being a Patriots fan, like, I don't mean to flaunt or anything, but I know better than most where it's like having the dynasty for so many years and having to play so many playoff games. Sure, it might not look like a big deal in week 10 against the New York Jets, you know, when New England used to play them. But like when you had to play Peyton Manning in the AFC Championship and our third corner or our fourth corner has to play against Eric Decker, I mean, that's not a great matchup. You know what I'm saying? So having that extra layer of depth at certain positions or another player you can rely on, that is honestly, especially on defense, sometimes it's the make or break of the difference of being a Super Bowl team and a team that loses in the NFC divisional round or something like it. It really can matter, especially in a matchup league the way that it is. And essentially what I'm saying with the Colts is they're a matchup team. They're a matchup team that it feels like they match up pretty damn well with the AFC right now. I do want to get back to the Jets side of this. So with Adonai Mitchell, I think that's a phenomenal pickup. Like, that is the absolute right type of player you want to grab in a deal like this. So he is 23 years old. He just turned 23 years old a month ago. So he's extremely young. Okay. He was touted as a first-round pick, and he hasn't had a lot of playing time. I think his weakness entering the NFL, it was seen as work ethic. I think, from my opinion, it's maybe more IQ. But from a physical standpoint, he immediately is their number 2 receiver. Like, immediately. So he's immediately going to get reps. He's immediately going to see the field. He's immediately going to have a chance to build his confidence. And he could immediately be the guy that complements Garrett Wilson in a way that the Jets have not had a guy to complement Garrett Wilson in I don't know how long. Like, Devontae Adams was there briefly, but that was never a long-term thing. They really haven't had that complement for Garrett Wilson. So Adonai Mitchell could be that guy. Like, he's got good speed. He's got good route running chops for a guy that's built like him. He's got the 6'2", 6'3" frame. He's got really good hands. He can win vertically down the field. He just kind of was out of place with the Colts, where he was their fourth receiver. He didn't have a lot of confidence. He was in the doghouse. Alec Pierce is kind of better at that vertical stretching role than Mitchell is. But that is a great swing by the Jets to be able to get him in that deal, because it fits a need. It fits a need, and you don't even have to spend a draft pick on it potentially, where you're loaded with draft picks, right? If we're to break down, we'll get into that further when we talk about Quinnen Williams, with all the draft picks they have. But, like, this just helps another need. Another need for them, which was wide receiver 2, or maybe even if he's a wide receiver 3. But this guy is far too talented, I think, to not be something at the NFL level. Like, I've seen enough from him flashing in the NFL. Even that play that he made against the Rams where he fumbles the ball in the end zone. Like, that was an incredible catch. That was an incredible run after catch. Like, a lot of players can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good risk right there. And in terms of Sauce Gardner, I don't think he's the best corner in the league. I don't think he's a top 3 corner in the league, but I think he's top 10. I think he was in the wrong system with the Jets. I think that he'll be better suited for the Colts. I think Lou Anarumo will be able to use him better. I do think this is a little bit expensive for Sauce Gardner, 2 first-round picks, but I fully understand it from the Colts' perspective, and I feel like the Jets got great value out of this trade. Like, the thing about the Jets here is people may want to criticize, saying, hey, this is a player in his prime, he's young, you just paid him, why not keep him? They didn't love the fit in their defense, and they didn't jeopardize value. It's not like they gave him away for a 3rd or a 2nd. No, they got 2 firsts out of this and a receiver. So they didn't jeopardize value by trading one of their best talents. That is a huge reason why this is a good trade for the Jets. It's not like they gave him away for free, right? And that's why it was such a shocking trade, okay? The Jets have also made numerous additions to their corner position. I think they made a low-key trade right after the deadline ended. So they traded for Jarvis Brownlee of the Titans a couple weeks ago. He has graded as the 27th best corner in football. I kind of liked him in Tennessee. Brandon Stevens so far has worked out for the Jets. Their signing of him, 18th in the NFL according to PFF, and PFF is just one little source, one little stat. Don't take it the end all be all, but it's just one thing you can look at. They also traded for Jaseer Taylor. They sent Jaseer Taylor to the Chargers, I should say. What was that? 2028 conditional 7th round pick to the Chargers in exchange for defensive back Jaseer Taylor. So Jaseer Taylor, I mean, I could just quickly talk about Jaseer Taylor. I don't think he's really played that much this year, if I'm not mistaken. But the Jets also traded Michael Carter, who, again, Michael Carter was good in Robert Saleh's defense, right? And we'll talk about Michael Carter. We'll talk about the Eagles. He didn't fit Aaron Glenn's defense, right? So Jaseer Taylor sent to the Chargers. Didn't he play for the Chargers before? Am I crazy? I feel like Jaseer Taylor was on the Chargers last year. Am I drunk? Am I crazy? That might be the reason they traded for him, to be honest. Let me see. That actually would make a lot of sense. I feel like he was on. So yeah, it was just a late round pick for some depth, because Taylor is just a depth player. He's started 0 games this year. He was on the Chargers. Yeah, I don't even know. How did he even end up? They must have picked him up. The Chargers must have cut him. If anyone knows the details there, the Chargers must have cut him because he literally played for the team the last 3 years. Or maybe he was a free agent. They signed him this offseason. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, I mean, Jasir Taylor got traded to the Chargers. The only reason that matters is the Chargers have dealt with some injuries at corner, including Still, their nickel corner, who's out for a few weeks. So Taylor is a guy that could play the nickel position potentially for them. He's 5'10", 185. He's kind of got that frame. Probably has familiarity in that role before. So it makes sense from that standpoint that maybe they're looking for him to just fulfill some of the depth there. Let's see. Did he play at all for the Jets? Yeah, like I don't really see anything. So yeah, I don't know. But if anyone has any details there, it's just depth for the Chargers because they've dealt with injuries at corner. It's not really a big move. Okay. Let's go to something different. I think we should continue with the Jets theme. So I'm going to transition to Quinnen Williams, and then we'll get to the Cowboys, and then we might go to the Eagles, but let's keep going there. All right. So the Dallas Cowboys, my goodness. The Dallas Cowboys, are they back? Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have acquired 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets. In exchange for Quinnen Williams, the Jets, who just got 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell from the Colts for Sauce Gardner, they get on top of that a 2026 second-round pick, so this year's second, and next year's first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and another former high draft pick, Mozzie Smith. So, Quinnen Williams for a second this year, a first next year, and a former first-rounder, Mozzie Smith. Now, there will be a lot made about Jerry Jones and his impatience and his lack of understanding when it comes to Micah Parsons and Quinnen Williams and all this stuff, right? Like a lot of people, I've already seen the tweets. I've already seen the reports. I'm trying to find a tweet where it kind of sums up the whole deal here between Parsons and Williams. So I believe it is Micah Parsons and a second-round pick for Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and a first-round pick. So essentially, Parsons for Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and the ability to move up from the second to the first. That's basically what it is. So the Cowboys got 2 defensive tackles, 1 older veteran, good player, good starter, not a great player in Kenny Clark. They moved up from the second to the first round, and they added a Pro Bowl All-Pro caliber defensive tackle for one of the best edge rushers in the league in his prime. Essentially. Also, they saved a lot of money. The big part of it is they saved a lot of money. That's a big part. So I actually look at that and I say that's not a bad trade for the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody really thought that was the way they were going to go, right? I do think that the Dallas Cowboys would have wished this would have happened a couple of weeks ago instead of losing to Denver in embarrassing fashion and dropping another game to Arizona at home. Maybe the defense would have looked a heck of a lot better with Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams a couple weeks ago, and the Dallas Cowboys could have been well on their way for a playoff run, right? Maybe they win one of these games, Cardinals game, Broncos game, maybe with Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, and maybe they're looking a lot better for that playoff picture. But that's nitpicking. I want to say when it comes to the Jets first, because we talked about the Jets with Sauce. If you're going to trade Sauce, you're basically giving up on your short-term future anyways. So I think this is a good trade for the Jets. They get, again, a first and a second. That's premier capital. And they get a former first-round pick, Mazi Smith. Now, I wasn't a Mazi Smith fan coming out of the draft. I don't think he's a very good NFL player. But he's a reclamation project. Maybe he turns into a rotation defensive tackle for Aaron Glenn. He's a big nose tackle type. He should be a good run defender. That should help them against the run without Quinnen Williams. But Mazi Smith has not turned into be anything like that at the Dallas Cowboys. And he's not a good scheme fit for Matt Eberflus at all. Not a good scheme fit at all. Quinnen Williams is a perfect scheme fit for Matt Eberflus. And also, Quinnen Williams is a fucking dog. Now, I want to underline that because a lot of people will talk about Micah Parsons is elite. He's one of the best players in football. Guys, I promise you, if Quinnen Williams had played for Dallas for the last 5 or 6 years, people would talk about Quinnen Williams in a similar regard to Micah Parsons. Like, Quinnen Williams is really that good. Okay, like, I don't think people need to, like, just because one's a defensive tackle and one's an edge rusher and one gets more sacks than the other, like, Quinnen Williams is a phenomenal football player. He's 28 years old, so he's a couple years older than Parsons. He obviously plays a different position than Parsons, but this guy has been outstanding in his career. He was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and he's lived up to those expectations. He's been a first-team All-Pro in his career before. In, I believe, 2023. I'm going to double-check that, but I believe 2023, he had 12 and a half sacks under Robert Saleh. He is actually 27, turning 28. So he will be 28 in December. Okay? But Quinnen Williams was a 3-time Pro Bowler, 3 times straight from 2022 through 2024. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2022 with 12 sacks. The last 2 years, he's also been named a Pro Bowler. Okay? This season, in 2024, he is the highest graded run defender in the NFL. A 90.8 run defense grade for the New York Jets. He is the 7th ranked defensive tackle. Okay, if you were to look at his overall grading throughout the course of his career, he has been top 4 at defensive tackle twice in his career, 2022 and 2023. He also was 12th in 2020. It's crazy that he's been in the NFL this long. He's played since 2019. Pretty incredible, man, to be honest. Like, he's played for 7 years. He came into the NFL at 20 years old. So, like, it's a guy that's, touted as an absolute game changer from the very beginning. He was the 3rd overall pick. I thought he was actually like the 8th. Maybe I'm thinking of Jalen Carter, but Quinnen Williams was 3rd in the NFL draft in 2019. And he's a perfect 3-tech. He's powerful, he's quick, he demands double teams, and I love how this impacts Dallas's defense. Dallas has low-key one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL. His name is Osa Odighizuwa. He's a great player. The Cowboys have him, and they extended him this offseason. He's a really good player. Him and Quinnen Williams inside, it's hard to find a better duo in football at that position. I mean, the Patriots have one of them. Dallas has another one of them. Like this guy. So now you have a tandem inside of Quinnen, Odighizuwa, plus you got Kenny Clark. So that D-tackle position now is pretty stacked, at least for this year. I'm looking at Odighizuwa has 25 pressures. Kenny Clark has 27 pressures this year. Guys, Kenny Clark is 8th in pressures with 27. Odighizuwa is 10th in pressures with 25. Odighizuwa, that's crazy. And then you've got the best run defender at the position in the league in Quinnen Williams, and a guy that's gone for 12 sacks at that position before. And honestly, probably doesn't have the great pass rushing stats this season because everybody's paying attention to him because nobody on the Jets D-line can do anything besides him. So this is the type of centerpiece gravitational player for Dallas's defense, like Micah Parsons was, that's going to make them that much better. Like, 4 hands at all times have to be on Quinnen Williams. At all times. That's going to free up a Diggy Zua for one-on-ones, Kenny Clark for one-on-ones. We saw Jadeveon Clowney go off last night. Clowney looked great last night, right? Dante Fowler is capable of getting to the quarterback. Sam Williams has had a good season this year, I feel like. Dallas's D-line is legit. Donovan Ezaraku, as a rookie, is 21st in PFF grade, 75 pass rush grade. You know, he's come on, 23rd in pass rush grade this year. He's a pure edge rusher. James Houston has been pretty good, in my opinion. So, yeah, this D-line in Dallas has become one of the best in football overnight, or literally today. Like, that's how good they've gotten through Quinnen Williams. Like, Quinnen Williams is that good. He's that good, in my opinion. Now, I have problems with their secondary. They can't cover a soul. Their corners, their safeties, they stink, right? They're terrible. They can't cover anybody. So, is this pass rush good enough to be able to play soft zone and get away with it? Malik Hooker maybe needs to come back. Their safety position's a bit beat up. They've got Overshown returning at linebacker, who's a force at linebacker who can cover and has great range. So their front seven's going to be nasty. If these moves work out, they're really going to work out for them. But I don't hate this at all, you know, from Dallas's perspective. It's a little confusing where they traded Micah Parsons and then they trade for a player, you know, with some of those assets. It's a little confusing, but Quinnen Williams isn't that much older. Jerry Jones said he wanted to get better against the run. Well, there isn't anyone better against the run this year than Quinnen Williams, so that's nice to have. You're certainly going to be dominant against the run, and then that's going to hopefully help your pass defense, and you've got a guy now that can help the team with Dak Prescott playing at his peak of his powers right now with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Maybe you don't make a run this year, but you've opened the door next year to be a real player next year, right? Like, you've opened the door next year of maybe you make a couple moves for your defense in the secondary, and all of a sudden you're a real contender. So I think this is a great trade for Dallas. I think Quinnen Williams is a rare player. I think he has been a top 10 defensive tackle really since he's entered the NFL. He's on the short list of dominant forces, well-rounded forces in the NFL, and he's not as expensive as a lot of the elite players at the edge position. And Dallas has shown an ability to draft edge rushers and replenish that position. They've already shown that with Ezaraku, who's been having a good year. So I really like that move for Dallas. I also love the move for the Jets. Like, again, they get a player that maybe they can mold in Mozzie Smith. They get a first-round pick in 2027, not this year, but next year. 2027 could be a quarterback class that they like. If they don't like one this year, they could get one next year. And that's kind of where we go full circle with these draft picks for the Jets, right? So the Jets, they have 7. Hold on real quick. I need to look this up to be exact. But the Jets have a ton of draft picks. So the Jets' draft picks are just incredible. I think they have 2 first-rounders this year. The Jets pick, which is going to be top 5. And the Colts pick, which is going to be, I don't know, maybe around like 28. And then 2026, they have 2 seconds and 2 firsts this year with the Jets and Dallas. And then in 2027, they have 3 first-rounders. So they have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 seasons to replenish this team, get younger, get cheaper. And if you're looking at the Jets from a holistic standpoint, the Jets offensively, they really only need a quarterback. Like, if I'm being 100% honest, they need a quarterback. Their offensive line is actually pretty good. They've drafted 2 first-round tackles in Fashanu and Membu, who are both good players. Their guards have been pretty good. Their center position has been solid. Mason Taylor looks decent. as a second round tight end and should only get better as that position typically does get better as years goes on. Breece Hall is a good running back. Hopefully he doesn't become disgruntled, but they could re-sign him. They'll have plenty of cap space. Garrett Wilson is a number one receiver. So they have a number one receiver. They have a young tight end. They have a young, good offensive line with 2 good tackles. They have a running back that's still pretty young in his prime, explosive. They need a quarterback, and they need to nail that quarterback with these 5 first-round picks. They might have to use multiple firsts to get into the right spot for the quarterback of their liking. But honestly, they have a 1-7 record right now. They're going to have a top 3 pick in this year's class, so they're going to get a quarterback. And then with the rest of the picks they have, 2 seconds this year, right? And then whatever other firsts you have, you're going to be able to build Aaron Glenn's defense the way that he wants it to be built. Okay? And I'm not an Aaron Glenn fan. You have Will McDonald. Will McDonald I like. That's a legit pass rusher. Jermaine Johnson, I don't know if he'll remain there. He might become a free agent, sign somewhere else. Quincy Williams is a dog. Jamie Sherwood is a dog. They've got good linebackers. And they've got Will McDonald. And they've seemingly found something with Brandon Stevens and Jarvis Brownlee. Those guys are solid. They need safeties. They need corner help maybe down the road. They're definitely going to need a new defensive front. But hey, that's not that far off. So a team, I know it's still far off because you need a quarterback, but 5 first-round picks and 2 seconds. I'm not an Aaron Glenn fan. I probably won't ever be an Aaron Glenn guy, but at the same time, this front office and this team is set up to rebuild and replenish in the right way through these trades. So I have to give an A+ effort for the Jets. Now it's a matter of execution with these draft picks. And who knows what they're going to do with those draft picks. They don't always pan out, right? So they're lottery tickets. They're hope for the fan base. But I think they were great moves. And like I said, for Dallas, I love that. I love that move for Quinnen Williams. Logan Wilson was the other trade that Dallas made. I think it was the first trade that was announced today. Logan Wilson is a veteran linebacker of the Bengals. I'm trying to find the details exactly here. Were the details of the trade. Jerry Jones spoke on the trade for Logan Wilson. So Cincinnati received a 2026 7th round pick. So it was very cheap. But Jeremy Fowler reported that Dallas did not rework Wilson's deal to facilitate a trade. They will inherit his remaining $2.6 million deal. Jerry Jones said some guys have the ability to see a certain key and at the same time, take a step up in the hole. He knows how to get in the gaps right now. For what we need right now, he can come in immediately and help us at linebacker. So Logan Wilson has been a very good linebacker throughout his career. Last couple years, a bit up and down and all around, and a lot of that does have a lot to do with the current standing of the Bengals defense. Logan Wilson has not been a part of a very good defense, so it makes him look worse than he probably is, to be fair. I think he lacks a little bit of power and physicality in some ways, but when you look at his numbers, he has 46 tackles, 4 passes defense in 7 games. He's played a lot of snaps, 97%, 98%, 99% of snaps for Cincinnati over the last 3 seasons from 2022 through 2024. You may recall him being a huge part of that 2021 defense that led them to the Super Bowl and also was the guy that took the pass interference on Cooper Kupp, although it was kind of a suspect call. You might remember that play. 58th graded linebacker this year. He is 3rd best in pass rush grade for what it's worth. He is making about $8 to $9 million the next 3 years. He is 29 years old. Logan Wilson has been ranked inside my top 20 linebackers in the NFL in seasons before. Now, I don't think he's there anymore, but he's a guy that I've always felt had good instincts in coverage and always had good spatial awareness in coverage. Is a fairly good athlete. Had 4 interceptions in 2021, 4 interceptions in 2023. Certainly can get his hands on the ball and make plays. Had 100 tackles every single year from 2021 through 2024. And Jerry Jones seems to like the way that he plays the run and sees the field that way. And yes, I would say that his recognition and his smarts and his awareness are his best skills. I would definitely say that. So Logan Wilson, I think, is a solid player. Definitely an improvement from what they had at linebacker, and will be a good complement to Overshown once he returns, who I thought was phenomenal as a rookie. So I love these moves for the Cowboys. I think it makes it a lot better. The question is, was it too little too late for Dallas? That's the question. We'll have to find out. But I do think this makes their defense up front very dangerous, potentially dominant on their defensive line with Quinnen Williams, and one of the best defensive tackle positions in football with Quinnen Williams, Odighizuwa, and Kenny Clark. Looking forward to seeing how it all fits under Matt Eberflus. He has a lot of pressure on him now, because if you can't figure it out with this group now, you just can't figure it out in general, okay? You can't figure it out in general. You just can't. So Matt Eberflus, if he doesn't figure this out, he's going to have to go, right? But those are my thoughts on the Dallas moves. Those are my thoughts on the Jets. Overall, they didn't decide to trade Jermaine Johnson. We're probably going to talk about the Jets again because they traded more players. But Jermaine Johnson, he's staying. Quincy Williams, he's staying. Breece Hall, he's staying. They didn't decide to trade those guys. Before I get to the other moves that happened today, just a quick shout to the chat. Appreciate everybody that's joining me here live. Jay, Jordan, The Jerk, Panther. I know you guys want to hear about your team. If you want to hear about specific move, a specific player, let me know in the chat. Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button, guys. Don't forget to do that. It definitely helps this channel. It helps this video, and it helps other NFL fans find this content. So be sure to like the video. My power rankings post trade deadline will probably be out late tonight or early tomorrow. My early best bets on Money Mitch are going to be out as soon as I'm done live here. I've been a little bit pushed back with everything because I was working a 2-hour live stream for Bleacher Report. So some of the content, because of the deadline, that takes up some space, but we're on a regular scheduled program. We got a lot more going on. I might even do a winners losers for the trade deadline video. If you'd like to see that, let me know, but I'm not 100% sure on that yet, but that could be something that we do. Okay. Next, where do we want to go? Where was my notes? Am I crazy? Okay, there we are. Okay, where do we want to go? We could talk about Jakobi Meyers. We've got a Jags fan in here. We could talk about Jakobi Meyers. Okay, let's talk about Jakobi. Jakobi's pretty easy. So the deal for Jakobi: 4th and a 6th round pick, Jacksonville sends to the Raiders in this year's draft in exchange for Jakobi Meyers. I think that's fair value. In my opinion, that's about a 3rd round pick of value. But the Raiders get 2 selections, one in the 4th, one in the 6th, instead of a straight up 1 pick in the 3rd. And they get Jakobi Meyers. Now, Meyers was reportedly maybe almost a Pittsburgh Steeler. So that was a team that was brought up in the news for Jakobi Meyers. But he goes to Jacksonville. This one surprised me. I'm not going to lie. This one surprised me. I was a little shocked about watching him get traded to Jacksonville because they spent a ton of draft capital on Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's hurt. Brian Thomas was a 1st round pick. Brian Thomas, to me, is a really good player. Now, obviously, he hasn't played at that level consistently this year. Maybe hasn't been quite the right fit with Trevor Lawrence and quite the right fit with Liam Cohen. I'm not sure. Some weird things going on there. But I really like Brian Thomas. I think on 99% of teams, he'd be fantastic. Also, De'Ami Brown is a guy that they signed this offseason. Parker Washington is a player that I really like. I wish he was on the Patriots. I like Parker Washington quite a bit. He looked really good against the Raiders. So out of all the positions the Jags really needed, wide receiver did not come to mind. Offensive line, maybe. Safety, maybe. You can never use enough defensive linemen. They did make a swap at corner for Greg Newsome. Jacksonville's been very aggressive in this new regime. They've been aggressive for Travis Hunter. They were aggressive in trading for Greg Newsome or swapping Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome. They were fairly aggressive in free agency. replenishing their offensive line and their, some of their areas of their team. So Jacksonville believes they can make the playoffs. Jacksonville believes they are one of these teams that has a chance. And I don't see why not, but I am a little confused as to how they see Meyers fitting long term. Is this a guy that they want to actually sign long term? Do they maybe want to enter the offseason and see if there are buyers for Brian Thomas? Is he a guy that could be traded? Because obviously you can't trade Travis Hunter. Yes, Travis Hunter's hurt now, but he's supposedly going to be your guy in the long term. You signed De'Ami Brown. Maybe you're not convinced by him, but he signed to I think a 2-year deal or something like that. And again, I like Parker Washington. I like Brenton Strange. I don't know. I'm a little confused as to the long-term prospects of this. That's where I'm a little lost. Maybe this will lead to a Brian Thomas trade. Maybe this is simple as this is a rental. Jakobi Meyers is going to play out this contract in Jacksonville for this year, and he's going to help them replenish and replace Travis Hunter in the slot, give a reliable option for Trevor Lawrence, give Jacksonville a chance to make the playoffs, and then they'll see you later. They'll get a comp pick back, in free agency. They'll get a 4th back for Jakobi Meyers when he signs with New England in the offseason. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know. But I'm kind of I'm kind of thinking about that. Like, I don't really know. Maybe it's a trial where, like, if we really like him in the offense, then we'll keep him. But maybe he can help us now. Maybe he won't. It's kind of weird. But when you're talking about the player, okay, I've always been a Jakobi Meyers fan. He has his limitations. He's not a top 10, top 20 receiver in football. But, man, this is a player that helps you win games. He is a very tough player. He's a great guy, first of all, off the field. NFL people, Patriots people, Patriot beat reporters love this guy. Like, he's a really good guy, really good locker room guy. Probably underpaid, to be fair. Last season with the Raiders, he had 1,027 yards, 4 touchdowns, 87 catches. It was his first 1,000-yard season after 3 consecutive 800-yard seasons, 2 with the Patriots and 1 with the Raiders. Extremely consistent. He's pretty tall, actually. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's got really reliable hands. He was a quarterback in college, actually. Turned into a receiver, just like Julian Edelman for the Patriots. He made his way onto New England in 2019 as a 23-year-old undrafted free agent, worked his way up, and then was the Patriots' best receiver, arguably, through that Mac Jones era. And then they moved off of Jakobi Meyers, and the Patriots decided to go with Juju, which was a complete mistake. And he ended up with the Raiders, and he's been a pretty good player for the Raiders with an 800 and 1,000-yard season in back-to-back campaigns. This year, they bring in a new regime. They bring in Chip Kelly. They draft Jack Besh. They draft Thornton. They have Brock Bowers. They have Michael Mayer. They have Ashton Genty. Doesn't quite fit the identity or the offense that Chip Kelly wants to run, right? Meyers is more of a inside-outside player. So what I mean by that is preferably a slot receiver that can play on the outside as a Z receiver. He's a really good route runner at the short and intermediate level. He's not explosive, but he's got enough savviness and quickness to separate on routes, and he's good against man coverage. He's kind of like a Devontae Adams light. That's the comparison I've made for him, is like he can do everything Devontae Adams can do, but not quite as well. He's got really good releases, really good inside-outside versatility, good enough size, can locate the football well. I think he's very tough, though. He'll make a lot of key catches in the middle of the field. So I could see him doing well with Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence seems to like to throw the ball to the middle of the field and to the slot receiver. Liam Cohen likes to really access that slot receiver and utilize that slot receiver with a lot of volume. But I kind of like what Parker Washington's been doing. Maybe they want to use those two in the middle of the field as complements to each other, perhaps. And Brian Thomas, I mean, he hasn't been reliable. Brian Thomas is a freak show, right? He can fly. He's an absolute beast, but the way that they've been using him in this offense hasn't quite been great or effective. So I want to see what the long-term prospects for Jakobi Meyers are in Jacksonville. But for the now, this is a player that helps you win games. He's smart, high IQ, great hands, and he's tough as hell. So it's a really good move coming from a Patriots fan to a Jacksonville fan in terms of just like the player. You're getting a good player. I wouldn't be worried about that. Now, I'm worried about with Jacksonville their lack of draft picks. I'm worried about with Jacksonville why are they putting more resources into receiver when that's not really the position they needed? There's questions I have about this move that have nothing to do with Jakobi Meyers, more of the process of the rest of the roster. Okay, so that's kind of what I wonder there, but that was a big trade today. There was another receiver trade today, Rasheed Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks. The Saints traded wide receiver Rasheed Shaheed to Seattle. This was a trade for a 4th and 5th round pick in 2026. So Jakobi Meyers went for a 4th and a 6th. Rasheed Shaheed went for a 4th and a 5th. Jakobi, a lot more productive than Shaheed in his career and a lot more consistently reliable than Rasheed Shaheed. Shaheed is cheaper. Shaheed also maybe has some untapped potential. I think that's part of it. He's also a different type of receiver. He is explosive as hell. Rasheed Shaheed is one of the fastest receivers and playmakers in the NFL. And it made a lot more sense for the Saints to move Shaheed than move Chris Olave. Olave is a playmaker they need to center their offense around. He's a number 1 receiver in football. He is smooth. He's got the outside chops to run routes and run by you. He can separate, right? He's a really good playmaker you want to keep. So I'm glad the Saints didn't trade him. Rasheed Shaheed made sense. He's a free agent, right? And he's never really been incredibly consistent or reliable from a health standpoint. He's 27. He'll be a free agent. He has 44 receptions, 499 yards, 2 touchdowns in 9 games this season. When you're talking about his grading, he's consistently been graded as a number 2 receiver in the NFL. According to PFF, Shaheed 53rd, 54th, and 57th. So that's a number 2 receiver. 32 number 1s, 32 number 2s. He's a number 2 receiver. I love this move for Seattle. I think the biggest missing piece for Seattle, and if you guys watch my channel or watch Money Mitch at all, you would understand why I like this move. Because my biggest criticism of Seattle has been their number 2 or secondary receiver options. I love Jackson Smith-Njigba. The guy is incredible, and he has been one of the best receivers in the NFL. But outside of Jackson Smith-Njigba, the Saints passing, or not the Saints passing offense, but the Seahawks passing offense, which is kind of the Saints because Kubiak was the OC of the Saints last year. Now this is a connection to Shaheed from the Saints last year to the offense this year. Of course, Kubiak getting one of his guys that he worked with last year. But Shaheed is a great number 2 for Jackson Smith-Njigba. Why? JSN is better in the slot than he is out wide. Rasheed Shaheed can fly. Rasheed Shaheed is that type of receiver that threatens defense vertically to make you play softer in the back end of your defense, which opens up everything underneath. This might actually be good for Cooper Kupp because Cooper Kupp might now have some access underneath or be more of a third receiver, play less snaps, right? And be able to work the slot and work the underneath area and be a zone beater. Now you don't have to rely on Cooper Kupp to separate from man-to-man, to be your number 2 receiver, that when he gets a one-on-one, when JSN is doubled, you don't have to rely on Cooper Kupp to be that guy to get open. Now it's Rasheed Shaheed, where if you don't have a safety over top Shaheed, you're a liability to give up a touchdown on any given play. So I love how these players complement each other. JSN has been so dangerous, including vertically down the field, but he's an incredibly crafty, great, wicked route runner and a real number 1 threat to where you have to be paying attention to him on every third down, every big play. They set him up on play action time after time after time. And now teams across the NFL, defenses across the NFL, they were eventually going to be able to just slow down Jackson Smith-Njigba because they'd resort two people to him, take him out of the game, make Cooper Kupp beat us, make Sam Darnold throw to someone else. Now they have an answer to that question. They potentially have a guy that can beat you when you try to overcompensate for JSN, right? And then Cooper Kupp can add that layer on top. And then you've got the tight ends, Arroyo and Barner, who are great athletes and can play their role, right? You're not having to rely on them to be proper receivers, but more so gadgety, kind of like work vertically down the field, off play action, that sort of thing. So Seattle's biggest weakness has been drop back passing game. They get a receiver who can separate and can go vertical. Okay. Also, you have Torrey Horton, who looked pretty good on Monday night. It was Monday night, right? Sunday night. Looked pretty good on Sunday Night Football. So Torrey Horton, he can fly too. So you've got Horton who can go, Shaheed who can go, JSN who's your number one, Kupp who's your reliable veteran against zone. This is a complete receiving core now. Complete receiving core. And it basically completes their offense. That's the best way to put it. They were hoping MVS would be this guy before the year, or maybe Torrey Horton before the year, where it's like, this is the guy who can take advantage of going deep when everyone is overcompensating for JSN, because we're going to beat you over the head with JSN until you overcompensate. Now, I still feel like Seattle's run game isn't very good, but Sam Darnold's been playing really, really well. And with an elite defense, which Seattle has, and a quarterback playing this well, with JSN playing this well, it only made sense for Seattle to strike. With San Francisco being injured, the NFC is wide open. The NFC West is wide open. I absolutely love this move for Seattle. It wasn't too expensive. It's not like you're mortgaging your future. You get a good, not great receiver, but he certainly fits the offense. He knows the offense. He fits the perfect role that you needed for this team. Okay? So I love that move for Seattle. For the Saints, we kind of knew this was going to happen. They need draft picks. Their roster's terrible. They probably weren't going to sign Rasheed Shaheed. He probably would leave in the free agency, so someone would have overpaid him somewhere. So it makes perfect sense why the Saints moved off of him. Also, the Saints traded Trevor Penning to the Chargers. The Chargers made a couple low-key moves. So they traded for a corner that they used to have on their team, and they traded for an offensive lineman who was a former first-round pick, Trevor Penning. I don't exactly know the details of the trade. I'm sure it wasn't extremely expensive. Okay, wait. It was a 2027 6th-round pick. Now I'm seeing it. So 2027 6th-round pick. Penning has been a guard. So he was drafted as a tackle, but he has not played well at tackle. He's been a starting guard for the Saints for a couple of years now, I want to say. And he hasn't been great there either. But I guess he has some versatility to his game. He's still got an upside that maybe the Chargers like, I guess, as a former first-round pick. And there probably weren't a lot of players available for the Chargers on the offensive line. It's hard to find offensive linemen. Joe Alt out for the year. Rashawn Slater out for the year. Maybe Mekhi Becton can slide to left tackle. Maybe Penning can play left tackle. Either way, they can figure it out. But he's 64th graded according to PFF this year. Last year, he was 60th. And the year previous, 65th. So, not exactly lived up to the first-round selection. But it is what it is. It's a move for the Chargers to hopefully protect Justin Herbert. Hopefully being the key word. I don't know if this is enough to do that, but they tried. They tried to do something, right? They tried to make something happen to protect Justin Herbert. Just wanted to quickly touch on that for the New Orleans Saints. We've got a lot of angry fans here. Sam says, feel like could help our run game too. Shaheed can be used as a playmaker, running the football. He's kind of one of those gadgety guys as well. Also, with his speed, he can stretch the field, so it could open up defenses to play more too high structures, so that could help the run game. If that's what you're alluding to. Sure, JSN doesn't really have like that burning speed that people fear, but Shaheed does. So yeah, maybe that does loosen the box up a little bit for Seattle to be able to run the ball a bit better. And also you can just hand the ball to Shaheed. He's also a punt returner too. Been a pretty good punt return. Not great, but he definitely can do that in my opinion. So that's something else too. Those are the main trades. The Eagles, I still want to talk about, and there's a couple other moves that happened not today, but in previous days that I do want to discuss. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka also was traded. The Bears added depth to their injury-riddled defensive line by trading for Cleveland's defensive end, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, former first-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, signed with Cleveland. Was it this year or last year? Can't quite remember, but he has not exactly played a huge role in Cleveland as a rotation rusher. Their defensive line is deep and absolutely loaded and stacked. The Bears needed somebody to replace Odenigbo, who they signed from the Indianapolis Colts. Not a similar style of player. Odenigbo is much larger, longer, bigger. But perhaps the Bears are looking at this to boost their pass rush and get a bendier, quicker, twitchier edge rusher rather than the big, long type of run defending edge rusher. So what this does is it gives them a guy that maybe on third downs can provide some pressure on the quarterback. That's their hope at least, right? Maybe Dennis Allen knows this guy. Maybe he liked him coming out of college. Obviously, he was with the Saints. He had to study the Bucs. So maybe he liked something from Joe Tryon. It's a possibility. I don't know. Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears now. He's played in 8 games. He has 0 sacks. In Tampa Bay, he had 2 sacks last year. He had 5 sacks in 2023, 4 sacks as a rookie and a second-year player. He's barely played for Cleveland. Cleveland's D-line is loaded. They just get, what was the exact, did I say, was there? Okay, so the Bears send a 2026 6th rounder to the Browns for Joe Tryon and a 7th rounder. So basically, they move up a round. And Joe Tryon, a guy that wasn't really playing, goes to the Bears. So the Bears, a team that I don't really take seriously as a playoff team. But they made a small move to replenish the talent on the defensive line. They definitely needed a defensive lineman. Okay? And it's a different style of lineman that they don't have, is the main point I want to get across here for Joe Tryon. He does have skills. Like, there's a reason he was a first-round pick. Okay? He does have the bendiness. He does have the pass rushing quickness and speed that you look for. But he's not as good as Odenigbo, and he, like, in his grading this year on the very limited basis he has played has been the strongest of his career. So there is something. That is something. But basically it was just to replenish the D-line loss that the Bears have had, and they have an extremely injured defense. Okay, so we talked about Penning, Joe Tryon, Shaheed, Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, Jakobi Meyers, Logan Wilson. What else did I miss? We talked about Mozzie Smith, A.D. Mitchell. I think now we've covered everything from today. There are some moves that happened in previous days. If you guys haven't already, spike the like button. I want to talk about the Eagles. I was going to talk about this already a couple different times, and it just didn't so work out. But the Eagles made 3 different trades this deadline. But I guess before I talk about the Eagles, I will just mention that the Ravens traded for Titans edge Draymond Jones for a 2026 5th rounder. Now, Singh was wondering, as the resident Raven fan, is this guy any good, Mitch? And I basically said, I kind of like the move. I think I understand the move. So Draymond Jones, 63rd graded edge rusher, would be actually the highest graded edge rusher among all Ravens players for this season. Has played a starting role for the Titans, 407 snaps on the edge. He has a 67.5 pass rush grade, which would also be the strongest of any Ravens player. That would be 49th in the league. The intriguing part about Draymond Jones as a player is that he's 6'3", 281, and began his career as a defensive tackle. In recent years, he's been more of an edge rusher. But he is a defense. Like in early career, he was a defensive tackle. I remember him in Denver. He was one of the best interior rushers, like situational inside pass rushers in the NFL for the Denver Broncos. Early in his career, he had 6.5 sacks in 2020, 5.5 in 2021, 6.5 in 2022. He signed with Seattle in 2023. He played more of an edge role in Seattle, 4.5, 4, and then he has 4.5 this year in only 9 games. So he has half the sacks to game ratio. That's not bad. He's 28 years old. And what I like about Draymond Jones, he adds beef and size on early downs for the Ravens, who have a very small edge rusher position when you're talking about Mike Green and Kyle Van Noy. So he gives them beef on the edge to help stop the run on early downs, and he will be able to give you some pop and some pass rush on the interior on third down and sub-package situations. So that's where he can really thrive, is if you look at the Ravens from a defensive line standpoint now, no Matabike, right, for the rest of the year and the foreseeable future, but the Ravens become a lot more threatening in pass rush situations. Because now on third down, sub-package, NASCAR package, you got Kyle Van Noy and Mike Green on the edges, maybe David Ojabo mixing in. Now you have Draymond Jones on the inside with possibly Brent Urban or Travis Jones as well. So that helps your pass rush quite a bit on the interior, replacing Matabike where they've been really weak. On early downs, you can have all the big beef you want. Travis Jones, Brent Urban, John Jenkins, 5-man front. You can take Mike Green off the field and have Kyle Van Noy and Draymond Jones on the edges. So it makes them better on early downs against the run. It makes them better on third down against the pass. That's a very nice trade for the Ravens. Very nice trade. I think that's a very underrated pickup for Baltimore, in my opinion, Draymond Jones. I like the way that, just from my vision, he fits on the team. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles made 3 trades, the biggest of which the Miami Dolphins sent edge rusher Jalen Phillips yesterday to the Eagles for a 2026 third-round pick. I think this is solid value for the Miami Dolphins getting a third-rounder back, but at the same time, if I'm a Cowboys fan, if I'm a Commanders fan, if I'm an NFC contender fan out there, I absolutely hate Vic Fangio getting his paws on Jalen Phillips. I have been a Jalen Phillips fan for a long time. I think Jalen Phillips has always had the potential to be one of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL, and I think he's flashed that at times in his career. This season, Jalen Phillips is 54th in PFF grade, but he is 18th in pass rush grade. In his second season in the NFL as a former first-round pick, he was graded as the 6th best edge player in football. In his third year, he was graded as the 24th best edge player in football. He played under Vic Fangio in Miami in their playoff season where they lost to the Chiefs. You might recall in that cold game in Kansas City. He got hurt in that season, which has been really the season of his career, or the story of his career, has been injuries for this kid. But he has flashed high upside, okay? And for Fangio, he had 6.5 sacks in 8 games in 2023. So he was well on his way to having a breakout season, the best season of his career. He's only 26 years old. He has 3 sacks this season post-significant injury. He is 12th in win percentage and 16th in pressures this year. So he's shown high upside in past years. He's a former first-round pick. He's actually putting up really good advanced statistics this year. Win percentage, pressure numbers. His sacks might not be quite there. But if I'm being honest, guys, my opinion, I think Jalen Phillips walks into Philadelphia. He's the best edge rusher on their team. I'm just throwing that out there. I think he's better than Nolan Smith. I do. Nolan Smith is injured or has been injured. But I think Jalen Phillips is a better pass rusher than Nolan Smith. So I'm really intrigued to see this fit under Vic Fangio once again in this defense. He's extremely athletic, Jalen Phillips. He's a great scheme fit where he's a 3-4 outside linebacker type, right? We've talked about many times with the Eagles and Vic Fangio. Like, there's a reason Bryce Huff didn't work, because Bryce Huff was drafted as a speed, hand in the dirt, get off the ball pass rusher. There's a reason Bryce Huff works in San Fran but doesn't work in Philly, right? Nolan Smith works in Philly because he can stand up and play 3-4 outside linebacker, has incredible speed, incredible range, right? And Josh Uche's played pretty well for the Eagles too. He's 12th graded according to PFF, and his pass rush grade is through the roof. He has that pass rush skill set, that sub-package skill set, where you want him in on third downs. He's not great against the run because he's undersized, but 12th in pass rush grade this year is Josh Uche, former Patriot, who had, I think, 12 sacks or something in 2022 or 2023. I think 2022. But now your pass rush got a lot more scary. A lot scarier. So you could have a pass rush with Jalen Carter out there. Maybe Nolan Smith come playoff time. Josh Uche. Jalen Phillips. Maybe Jordan Davis. Maybe a Jomo. Now you've got a replenished pass rush. Right? Eagles lost Josh Sweat. They lost Milton Williams. I was telling Eagles fans, those are massive losses. Massive losses in the offseason. Now I think you have a lot closer to what your pass rush was. You've got the gravitational pull centerpiece Jalen Carter. You have a really good edge rusher in Jalen Phillips now that could be like your Josh Sweat from last year, in my opinion. You still have Nolan Smith, and you've got Josh Uche coming off the bench for sub-package. And yeah, Hunt has kind of been disappointing this year for them. So he's going to play a lot less. Zadarius Smith signed and retired. So obviously that's not going to work. Brandon Graham is probably washed, right? Jordan Davis no longer has to play as many snaps. That makes him a more effective player. He's much better against the run, and he's much better on early downs. Ajomo can be the third down guy, the new Milton Williams, right? So I love that move for the Eagles. I think that takes the Eagles from being a team where I was a little concerned about their offense and a little concerned about their defense to being a team where I'm like, I don't really know how I could be concerned about their defense anymore, because I like their linebackers in Zach Bond and Campbell, and that pass rush that I just brought up is going to be pretty damn good with Vic Fangio scheming it up. Vic Fangio is also a guy that likes to rush for. You know, he doesn't really like to blitz, as we know, so he wants a really good pass rush, and he wants to be able to play. Vic Fangio's bag is the coverages. Vic Fangio's bag is all the different coverages that he has, right? And all the different assignments they're able to do. And in talking about that, they trade for 2 different cornerbacks in the last week or so. So they made trades for Michael Carter of the New York Jets for Michael Carter and a 7th in 2027 for a 6th and John Mechie. Okay. So John Mechie was picked up by the Eagles off waivers from the Texans. They sent him to the Jets. So the Jets now brought in A.D. Mitchell to their receiving core and John Mechie to their receiving core. Mitchell is an outside perimeter receiver with a lot of tools in that tool bag. John Mechie is a slot receiver. Okay, so that adds a little bit of depth to their receiver position for the Jets. But then also, Michael Carter has been a really good nickel corner in a quarters-heavy defense in his past. In fact, Michael Carter, if I'm not mistaken, in 2023 was the highest graded nickel corner in the NFL. Let me check that, but I'm not 100% sure. But under Robert Saleh, Michael Carter was a really good slot corner with the Jets. Did not fit Aaron Glenn's defense. Last year, also had an injury at the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024, and that kind of caused him to fall off the rails as a player. So taking a chance on a couple guys that have been injured but have played really good at corner in the past. That's what the Eagles will do. So Michael Carter, 2023 was the 12th graded corner in football with an 80.4 grade. He, though, is exclusively a nickel corner. He has played 113 slot snaps in his career and has never been an outside player. He's 5'11", 184, former 5th round pick. His peak 2022-2023 under Robert Saleh, 19th in PFF grade and 12th in PFF grade. Since then, a 50.7 grade and a 43 grade. Fallen off the map. Some of that has to do with injuries. Some of that has to do with different coaching and different scheme. He is now going to be a depth corner for them that they can put inside, can play the nickel spot, and has played a lot of these same coverage trees before under Saleh. So that's more of a depth move. The real move that they're hoping works out is Jair Alexander. Alexander had been traded from the Packers to the Ravens in the offseason in a move that I thought was going to work out great, but it worked out spectacularly terribly for the Ravens. Alexander and a 2027 7th to the Eagles for a 2026 6th. Alexander is now going to hopefully for the Eagles be their number 2 perimeter corner, essentially being the Darius Slay replacement they never had. Adoree Jackson is just too old at this point, and Kelly Ringo is too slow and just not any good. So they're hoping that Alexander can be that guy. Quinnen Mitchell is a top 10 corner in football, in my opinion, and Cooper DeJean is one of, if not the best nickel corner in football. So in the first move where we talked about Michael Carter, I was like, are they really going to move Cooper DeJean outside? Because they want to take Adoree Jackson off the field. They want to take Kelly Ringo off the field, right? They want to put Michael Carter at the nickel position, right? Because he's never played on the outside. So are they going to move Cooper DeJean outside? No. So what this is really going to do, I think, is put Alexander on one side, Mitchell on the other side. Maybe they play matchup football. I'm not sure. And then Cooper DeJean remains at the nickel spot. If Michael Carter's playing really well, who knows? Maybe Michael Carter plays the nickel spot. Maybe Cooper DeJean plays outside, or maybe he plays safety, because he could definitely be a good safety too. So he's a little bit like that Kyle Hamilton. But to me, Cooper DeJean is much better at slot. He's played 329 snaps at slot, only 103 out wide, but he's like the best nickel corner maybe in the league right now. He was the number 1 graded corner, Cooper DeJean, last season in the NFL according to PFF, and he's 3rd this year, 3rd in coverage grade, and he's a phenomenal tackler and a great athlete. So you don't really want to move him out of the position where he is a legit awesome player. Now, the thing is, how much does Alexander have left? This year, he's played like absolute dog shit for the Baltimore Ravens. He's been constantly beat and picked on in the games that he did play. He only played 2 games. Now, maybe he was injured. But the thing is, with Alexander, he's been injured his whole career. 4 games in 2021, 7 games in 2023, 7 games in 2024, and only 2 games this year. He had a Pro Bowl season in 2022, which was a long time ago, played 16 games, was a second-team All-Pro. But the thing is, he looked good in the games when he was, like, in the injured seasons in 2024, 2023. In those injured seasons, he still looked like a good player. But this year, it's almost like the injuries kind of caught up to him. Maybe the age caught up to him. I'm not sure. Maybe the system. I'm not sure. But in Baltimore, he looked terrible. He looked like dog shit. But there's still that inkling of, could he still be a good player, right? Could he still be, it's just another throwing more assets at a position of weakness. That's essentially what it is. Because he was graded 10th in 2024 and 22nd in 2023 and 8th in 2022. So it was never a problem of, is he good? He was always good. He was just injured. Now it's, is he even good anymore? That's the question. So that's where I'm going to end it, guys. Those are my thoughts on every trade deadline move, essentially, that's happened within the last couple of days. Today and in the past couple of days. If you enjoyed, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace. Check out the power rankings. They'll be coming soon as well.